The wind screamed across the mountains like a living thing trying to tear the world apart. Jake stood at the window of his cabin, watching the snow fall so thick he could barely see 10 feet ahead. He had lived in these mountains for 5 years now, ever since he left the military, and he had never seen a storm this bad. The weather reports had been warning people for days. Everyone with half a brain had already moved to the lower towns or locked themselves inside with enough supplies to wait it out. Jake had done the same. His cabin was stocked with food, water, and enough firewood to last 2 weeks. The generator hummed in the basement, keeping the lights on and the heat running. He should have felt safe. But something felt wrong. Jake checked his emergency scanner again, the same way he had been doing every hour since the storm started. The small screen showed nothing but static and weather warnings. The wind rattled the windows. Ice built up on the walls outside, creating strange shadows in the failing daylight. Then the scanner beeped. Jake stared at the screen, a distress signal. Someone was out there 2 miles northeast, right in the worst part of the storm. He checked the reading again, hoping he had made a mistake. No mistake. The signal was weak but real. Someone needed help. Every piece of training Jake had ever received told him to stay inside. Going out in this weather was suicide. The temperature was 40 degrees below zero, not counting the wind. Visibility was almost zero. Even with his experience, his gear, and his knowledge of these mountains, the chances of him making it back alive were not good. Jake pulled on his thermal gear anyway. He had been a military medic for 8 years before coming to. He had pulled injured soldiers out of burning buildings, treated wounds under enemy fire, and carried men twice his size through mud and blood to safety. He had sworn an oath once, a long time ago, to help people who needed it. Living alone in the mountains had not changed that. The cold hit him like a physical blow the moment he stepped outside. The wind tried to push him back into the cabin. Snow stung his face like tiny knives even through his protective mask. Jake locked the door behind him and started walking into the white hell. He followed the scanner coordinates, keeping his head down and his eyes on the small device. The world around him was just white noise and freezing air. His boots crunched through snow that was already knee-deep and getting deeper. Every step was a fight. The wind pushed him sideways. The cold found every tiny gap in his clothing and tried to freeze the skin underneath. Jake had to stop 3 times to check his position and catch his breath. His lungs burned from the cold air. Ice formed on his beard and eyebrows. His fingers started to go numb even inside his gloves. He thought about turning back. He thought about how stupid this was. He kept walking. After an hour that felt like 10, Jake saw something dark against the white. A shape. Something that was not snow or rock or trees. He pushed forward, fighting through a drift that came up to his waist, and found the crashed shuttle. It was a small civilian model, the kind people used for short trips between colonies. The front was buried in snow and wrapped around a tree. The metal hull was cracked and bent. One of the landing struts stuck up at a wrong angle. Jake checked for radiation or fuel leaks with his scanner. Nothing dangerous, just a dead ship in the middle of nowhere. He found the emergency hatch on the side and pulled it open. The inside of the shuttle was dark and cold, not much better than outside. The control panel was smashed. The pilot's seat was empty, blood frozen on the headrest. Jake moved deeper into the shuttle, calling out. A small sound answered him, a whimper. Jake found them in the back storage area, huddled together under an emergency blanket. 2 children, maybe 8 years old, holding each other and shaking from cold that went beyond just temperature. They looked up at him with eyes that seemed to glow in the darkness. Purple eyes. Not quite human eyes. The girl spoke first, her voice weak. "Please help us." Jake did not hesitate. He pulled thermal blankets from his emergency pack and wrapped both children. The boy was barely conscious. The girl was in better shape, but not by much. Their skin was too pale, lips blue from hypothermia. Jake checked their pulses. Fast, too fast, but strong. Their body temperature felt wrong, hotter than human normal even though they were freezing. "I've got you," Jake said, keeping his voice calm. "You're safe now. I'm going to get you out of here." The girl grabbed his arm. There were others. Jake looked around the shuttle. He found one body near the front, by the look of it probably the pilot. No one else. "How many?" he asked. "Just Guardian," the girl whispered. "He was taking us somewhere safe. The storm, the engines failed." "Okay, listen to me. We need to move now. Can you walk?" The girl nodded. The boy just stared at nothing. Jake picked up the boy, light as he was, and helped the girl stand. She was steadier than he expected. He wrapped them both in his own coat, leaving him in just his thermal gear. The cold bit immediately, but the children needed it more. Getting back to the cabin was harder than the trip out. Jake carried the boy and helped the girl, fighting the wind every step. The storm had gotten worse. Snow fell so heavy he could not see his own feet. He navigated by memory and instinct, following a route he had walked 100 times in better weather. The girl fell twice. Jake picked her up each time. The boy never woke up. Jake's body screamed at him to rest, to stop, to give up. He ignored it and kept moving, one foot in front of the other. Again, again, again. When he finally saw the dark shape of his cabin through the white, Jake felt a relief so strong it almost knocked him down. He stumbled to the door, got it open, and carried both children inside. The heat of the cabin felt like fire on his frozen skin. Jake set the children down near the fireplace and started emergency treatment. He stripped off their wet clothes, wrapped them in dry blankets, and checked their vital signs. The boy's pulse was weak. The girl was semi-conscious but responsive. Jake started an IV line for the boy, giving him warm fluids. He rubbed the girl's hands and feet to restore circulation. He monitored their temperatures, watching the numbers slowly climb back toward safe levels. Outside, the storm raged on. The wind howled. Snow piled up against the windows, but inside the cabin, 2 small lives began to stabilize. Jake looked at the children as they slept by the fire. Their features were mostly human, but something was different. The faint pattern on their skin that looked almost like scales when the firelight hit it. The slight points to their ears. Those strange violet eyes. He had just saved someone's children from death. That was all that mattered. Everything else could wait until they were strong enough to talk. Jake added more wood to the fire and settled in to watch over them through the night. The storm was not going to end anytime soon. They were stuck here together. He would keep them safe. That was what he did. That was who he was. Even if he had no idea who they were, or what was coming to find them. The children slept for 16 hours straight. Jake stayed awake the whole time, checking their pulses and temperatures every 30 minutes. He changed their IV bags when needed and made sure the fire never went out. The storm continued to hammer the cabin with wind and snow that showed no signs of stopping. When the girl finally opened her eyes, Jake was sitting in a chair nearby with a cup of coffee. She sat up quickly, looking around in panic until she saw her brother still sleeping next to her. Then she saw Jake and froze. "Hey, easy," Jake said quietly. "You're safe. How do you feel?" The girl studied him for a long moment. "Warm," she said finally. "My brother. He's okay, still sleeping. He was in worse shape than you, but his vitals are good now. What's your name?" "Maya." She looked at the boy. "That's Leo. He's my twin." "I'm Jake. You're in my cabin. The storm is still bad outside, so we're stuck here for a while. Are you hungry?" Maya nodded slowly. Jake got up and went to the kitchen area. He heated up some soup, nothing fancy, just vegetable broth with noodles. He brought it back and handed her the bowl. She held it with both hands, breathing in the steam before taking a small sip. "It's good," she said, surprised. "Basic, but it'll help you get your strength back." Jake sat down again. "Can you tell me what happened? How did you end up in that shuttle?" Maya's hands tightened on the bowl. "We were running away from bad people. Guardian was helping us. He was taking us somewhere safe. Who were the bad people? I can't tell you, Maya looked down. It's not safe for you to know. Jake had heard that before, usually from people in trouble way over their heads. He did not push. Okay, what about your parents? Is there someone I should contact? Maya's violet eyes filled with tears. Our mother died when we were little. Our father, he'll be looking for us. But if we contact him, the bad people will find us too. So you don't want me to call anyone? Not yet, please. Maya's voice shook. Just give us a few days until the storm ends. Then we can figure out what to do. Jake considered this. The sensible thing would be to contact authorities right away. But something in Maya's fear felt real, not like a child's fantasy. And those violet eyes, that strange skin pattern, the body temperature that ran hotter than human normal, these children were not ordinary humans. They might be running from something genuinely dangerous. All right, Jake said. When the storm clears, we'll talk about next steps. Until then, you're my guests. Deal. Maya smiled for the first time, small but genuine. Deal. Leo woke up an hour later. He was quieter than his sister, watching Jake with suspicious eyes while Maya explained what happened. Jake made more soup and found some bread. The twins ate like they had not had a real meal in days. Over the next 2 days, a strange routine developed. The storm continued to rage, cutting off all communications. Jake's satellite link was down. His radio got nothing but static. They were completely isolated, which seemed to make the twins relax a little more each day. Jake taught them card games to pass the time. Maya picked them up quickly and started winning more than losing. Leo was slower but focused, thinking through every move carefully. They told Jake about the places they had seen, speaking in careful terms that avoided names or specific locations. Jake talked about Earth, about the mountains where he grew up, about why he came too. You left your home, Leo asked. Why? Jake stirred the fire, watching the flames. Sometimes you see things in war that change you. I needed somewhere quiet, somewhere I could think. Do you miss the fighting? Maya asked. No, I miss the people I fought alongside, but not the fighting itself. Leo nodded like he understood something adult and complicated. Our father fights all the time, not with guns, with words and deals, but it's still fighting. What does your father do? The twins exchanged looks. Business, Maya said carefully, complicated business. Jake let it go. He was starting to piece things together anyway. These were children of someone powerful, someone with enemies. The kind of power that meant people got hurt. The kind that meant children had to run and hide. On the 3rd day, Jake noticed something strange. He had cut his hand while chopping firewood. It was just a small cut, nothing serious. But Maya had gasped when she saw the blood and Leo had turned away quickly. Later, Jake caught Leo staring at his own hand where he had scraped it on the table edge earlier. The scrape was completely gone, healed without even a scar. That night, Leo had a nightmare. Jake heard him crying out in his sleep and went to check on him. Maya was already there, holding her brother and whispering to him. When Leo finally calmed down, Jake saw something impossible. Small wisps of smoke curled from the boy's nostrils just for a second before disappearing. Jake stood very still. Maya looked up at him with wide eyes. You saw, she whispered. I saw something, Jake admitted. Want to tell me what that was? Maya bit her lip. Then carefully she held out her hand, palm up. She concentrated, her face tight with effort. A tiny flame appeared in her hand, no bigger than a candle flame, dancing in her palm without burning her. We're draconian, Maya said quietly. Most people think we're extinct. We're not. We just hide really well. Jake sat down slowly. Draconians. He had heard stories, read reports from the old wars, a species that could shift between humanoid and dragon forms. Powerful, dangerous, nearly wiped out in conflict centuries ago. The few survivors had gone deep underground, hiding their true nature. Can you? Jake gestured vaguely. Change? Not yet, we're too young. The full transformation doesn't happen until we're older, but we can do small things: heat, smoke, small flames. Maya closed her hand and the flame disappeared. That's why the bad people want us. Draconian children are rare, valuable. To who? People who want to control our father, people who want to use us as weapons, people who want to study us like lab animals. Maya's voice went cold. Guardian died protecting us from them. We can't let that be for nothing. Jake looked at both children. Leo was awake now, watching him with those strange violet eyes, scared but defiant, ready to run again if needed. I'm not going to let anyone hurt you, Jake said. You can't stop them, Leo said quietly. You're just one human. Yeah, well, this one human already dragged you out of a frozen death trap in the middle of a killer storm. I figure that counts for something. Jake stood up. Get some sleep, both of you. We'll figure this out. The next morning, the storm finally broke. The wind died down. The snow stopped falling. Sunlight streamed through the windows for the first time in 4 days. Jake checked his communications equipment and found it working again. He had 47 urgent messages waiting. Jake scrolled through them, his face getting more serious with each one. News alerts, government bulletins, emergency broadcasts, all talking about 2 missing children, all calling them the orphan children of diplomats, all offering massive rewards for information. Maya appeared at his shoulder, reading the screen. They're lying, she said. We're not orphans. Who's looking for you, Maya? Really? She took a breath. Our father. His name is Vincent. He's the most powerful crime lord in the outer sectors. He controls smuggling, information, mercenaries. Everything illegal that happens in half the galaxy, he has a hand in it. Jake turned to look at her. I just spent 4 days taking care of a crime lord's children. We didn't ask to be his children, Maya said, her voice breaking. We didn't choose that life. That's why we were running. We just want to be normal. We just want to be safe. Leo came over and stood next to his sister. Will you turn us in? Jake looked at the messages on his screen. Then he looked at the 2 children who had spent 4 days playing cards with him, learning to trust him, showing him their secret. He thought about what the right thing to do was. He thought about laws and rules and the complications of galactic politics. Then he thought about how Maya had smiled when he taught her to play cards, how Leo had helped wash the dishes without being asked, how they both had nightmares about being caught, being used, being hurt. No, Jake said, I'm not turning you in, but we need a plan, because your father is going to find you, and when he does, we need to make sure you're somewhere safe, really safe. Maya hugged him suddenly, fierce and tight. Leo joined in a second later. Jake put his arms around both of them and felt something in his chest tighten. He had saved their lives in the storm, but the real storm was just beginning. Jake spent the next hour reading through every message and news report about the missing children. The official story was simple and clean. 2 diplomats' children had disappeared during a transport accident. Multiple factions were searching for them. There was a reward. Everything proper and legal. But Jake could read between the lines. The sheer number of ships being deployed was wrong for a simple rescue. The fact that both Galactic Council security forces and several independent mercenary groups were all looking said this was about more than 2 lost children. This was about power and leverage. How much does your father care about you? Jake asked Maya. She looked surprised by the question. He loves us, in his way, but his world is complicated. We're always protected by guards, watched by security systems. We can't have friends. We can't go anywhere normal. He thinks love means keeping us locked in a safe box. That's why you ran. We had a chance. Guardian believed we deserved better. He was father's oldest friend. He arranged everything, got us on a shuttle, was taking us to our aunt on a neutral station. Then the storm hit and Maya's voice trailed off. Leo sat on the floor, drawing with some paper and pencils Jake had found for him. He was sketching what looked like a dragon in flight, detailed and precise. "Father will burn down worlds to find us," Leo said without looking up. "But he won't listen to what we want. He never does." Jake's military training was kicking in, analyzing the situation like a tactical problem. They had limited time before someone tracked the children's last known location. The shuttle crash would be found eventually, even buried in snow. And when that happened, this cabin would be the first place searchers would look. "Tell me about your aunt," Jake said. Maya's face brightened a little. "Aunt, she's father's younger sister. She left the family business years ago, runs a legitimate trading company on Station Meridian. It's neutral territory. Father respects her even though they don't agree on anything." "Would she protect you?" "She would try, but father is stubborn. If he thinks we're safer with him, he'll take us back no matter what says." Jake nodded slowly. An idea was forming, risky but possible. "What if we could make your father understand, really understand why you ran?" "He won't listen to us," Leo said, still drawing. "Maybe not, but he might listen to someone else, someone outside his world." Jake checked his scanners. "We have maybe 12 hours before the first search teams get here. We need to make a choice. Hide, run, or face this head-on." Maya stood up, her violet eyes intense. "You have a plan." "The start of one. But it depends on something I don't know. Is your father reasonable? Can he put your needs above his pride and fear?" "He's ruthless," Maya said carefully. "But he's not cruel, not to us. He's just so afraid of losing us that he smothers us instead." "Then maybe we can work with that." Jake pulled up a star map on his console. "Station Meridian is 3 days' travel from here. If we contact your aunt, tell her you're safe, she could be the bridge between you and your father. Neutral ground, a negotiator." "How do we get there? We don't have a ship." "No, but we have a crashed shuttle with a working black box, and I have communications equipment. We can send a tight beam message to your aunt, encrypted, telling her where you are. She can arrange transport." Leo looked up from his drawing. "What about the bad people, the ones who tried to take us?" "That's the gamble," Jake admitted. "Once your father knows you're alive, he'll move to secure this area. That might scare off the rival group, or it might start a war. Either way, staying hidden isn't an option anymore. Too many people are looking." The twins looked at each other in that way siblings do, having a conversation without words. Finally, Maya nodded. "We trust you, whatever you think is best." Jake felt the weight of that trust settle on his shoulders. These children, who had every reason to trust no one, were putting their lives in his hands. He would not let them down. He spent the next 2 hours crafting a message too. It explained the situation, the children's wishes, and a proposal for neutral mediation. He included his own credentials, his military service record, and a simple statement that he wanted what was best for Maya and Leo. Then he encrypted it with the codes Maya provided and sent it on a tight beam channel that would take 6 hours to reach Station Meridian. Then they waited. Jake used the time to prepare. He checked his weapons, not many but enough. Supplies. He set up perimeter sensors around the cabin. Maya and Leo helped where they could, and Jake taught them basic safety protocols. If shooting started, they would go to the basement shelter. No arguments. Leo had stopped drawing and was watching Jake work. "You were a soldier," he said. "Medic, but yeah, I saw combat." "Are you afraid?" Jake considered lying, then decided these children deserved honesty. "Yes, fear is normal. It keeps you alert. The trick is not letting it control you." "Guardian taught us that too," Leo said quietly. "He said courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about doing what's right even when you are afraid." "Smart man, I'm sorry you lost him." "He saved us just like you did." Leo looked down at his drawing. "Will you die saving us too?" The question hit Jake harder than he expected. "I'm planning to avoid that, but if it comes to it, yes. Some things are worth the risk." Maya came over and took her brother's hand. "You don't have to do this. We could run. Find another way. Running just delays the problem. Better to face it now on our terms with a plan. Jake finished setting up the last sensor. Besides, I'm not letting you go back to that life, not if there's any other option. 4 hours after Jake sent the message, his console beeped with an incoming reply. It was brief and to the point. Acknowledged receipt of the message, confirmed she was arranging transport, and warned that Vincent had already deployed forces too. Multiple ships were in orbit. Ground teams would reach Jake's location within hours. "She's coming," Jake told the twins, "but your father's people will get here first." "How many?" Maya asked. Jake checked his long-range scanners. 3 ships in orbit, 2 landing teams, about 5 people each, moving toward this position. They'll be here in 2 hours. "What do we do?" "We make first contact on our terms." Jake pulled up a communication channel. "I'm going to call them, talk to whoever is leading the search. Establish that you're safe and that we're willing to cooperate, but only with specific conditions." Leo grabbed Jake's arm. "If he's leading them, you can't trust him. Father's second in command, he'll just take us." "Then we make sure they understand that's not an option." Jake opened the channel. "Attention search teams. This is Jake. I have Maya and Leo in my custody. They are safe, unharmed, and under my protection. I wish to establish communication with whoever is commanding this operation. Respond on this channel." Static for a moment. Then a rough voice came through, speaking Galactic Common with a heavy accent. "Human, this is Commander. You will surrender the children immediately. Any resistance will be met with force." Jake had expected this. "Commander, the children are alive because I risked my life to save them. I'm not handing them over to armed soldiers who roll up making threats. If Vincent wants his children back, he talks to me first, face to face. Those are my terms. You are in no position to make demands." "Actually, I am. You need me to cooperate. You need the children to trust me. And you need this to end without anyone getting hurt. So either talks to me, or we sit here and wait for Galactic Council security forces to arrive. I hear they're very interested in finding these children too." More static, was probably consulting with someone. Jake waited, watching his sensors. The landing teams had stopped advancing, holding position half a mile out. Finally, a different voice came through the speakers, deeper, controlled, with an edge that made the hair on Jake's neck stand up. "This is Vincent. You have my children, human. Explain yourself." Maya and Leo froze, recognizing their father's voice. Jake took a breath. This was it, the moment that would determine everything. "Mister, my name is Jake. 4 days ago, I found your children in a crashed shuttle during a blizzard. They were hypothermic and near death. I brought them to my cabin, treated their injuries, and kept them safe while the storm raged. They are healthy, well-fed, and resting comfortably. I am aware of the shuttle crash. I am aware you saved them. For that, you have my gratitude. Now return them." "I can't do that." Silence. Jake could almost feel the anger building on the other end of the transmission. "Cannot or will not?" His voice went colder. "Will not, because your children told me why they were running. They told me about the life you have them living, and they told me they don't want to go back to that life. They're terrified of being locked away again, even if it's for their own safety. You dare lecture me about my children? I dare tell you what they need, what they deserve. They're not possessions, mister, they're people, and people need more than guards and walls." Maya touched Jake's shoulder. "Let me talk to him." Jake muted the transmission. "Are you sure? He needs to hear this from us." Maya took a breath, then nodded at Jake to unmute. "Father," Maya's voice shook slightly. "It's me. Jake is telling the truth. We're okay. He saved us. But we can't come back to how things were. We can't live in a cage anymore." Maya's voice changed, losing some of its ice. "You are safe. That is all that matters. Come home and we will discuss this." "No, Father. We discuss it now. Or we run again. And next time, maybe we won't be lucky enough to find someone like Jake." The transmission went quiet for a long moment. Jake watched his sensors. The teams were still holding position, but more ships were entering orbit. The situation was escalating. The silence stretched for 10 seconds that felt like 10 years. Jake kept his hand near his sidearm, watching the sensors. The landing teams were still holding position, but he could see weapons signatures. They were ready to move the moment gave the order. When spoke again, his voice had changed. Less cold authority, more father. "Maya, I only want to keep you safe." "I know, father, but safe isn't the same as alive. We can't live like prisoners." "You don't understand the dangers, the enemies I have made, the people who would use you against me." Leo took the microphone. "We understand better than you think. Guardian died protecting us. We saw him bleed out in that shuttle while we hid and couldn't help him. We understand danger, father. What we don't understand is why you won't let us have any choice in our own lives." Jake heard something in the transmission then, a sound that might have been a sharp intake of breath. Had not known the details of death until this moment. "Is dead." His voice was rough. "He held off the attackers long enough for the shuttle to escape," Maya said. "He told us to run and not look back. He said to tell you that some things matter more than survival, that we needed a life worth living." Another long silence. Jake checked his sensors again. New contacts, Galactic Council ships entering the system. This was about to get very complicated. "Mr. Jake said, we have incoming Council forces. They'll be here in 20 minutes. We need to make decisions quickly." "The Council wants my children as leverage against me," said flatly. "Probably, but they also want to shut down the people who attacked your shuttle, the same group that killed your rival syndicate. The Council can't touch you directly, but they can break up the competition." "You think I should cooperate with the Council, give them what they want?" "I think you should give your children what they want. A chance to live with their aunt on neutral ground. A chance to grow up without armed guards watching their every move. And in exchange, you give the Council the information they need to take down the people who tried to kidnap Maya and Leo." "And if I refuse?" "Then the Council takes the children into protective custody. You fight them. People die. Maya and Leo end up traumatized and hating you. Nobody wins except your enemies." Jake could hear angry muttering in the background of transmission. Probably replacement, whoever was commanding the ground teams. But silenced them with a sharp word Jake did not catch. "You are very bold for a human who is surrounded," and said. "I'm a human who spent the last 4 days keeping your children alive and listening to them. I know what they want, what they need. And with respect, mister, I don't think you do. Not really. You dare presume to know my children better than I do. I presume to listen to them, which, based on what they've told me, is more than you've done lately." The transmission cut out. For a moment, Jake thought he had pushed too far. Then his proximity alarms went off. Something was landing near the cabin. Jake grabbed his weapon and moved to the window. A large black ship descended through the morning sky, its landing thrusters blasting snow in all directions. It was easily 10 times the size of a normal shuttle, armed and armored. It's personal transport. "He's here," Maya whispered. "Father never comes himself, he always sends people." "Guess you got his attention." Jake checked his weapon, more out of habit than any real hope it would matter. If decided to take his children by force, there was nothing Jake could do to stop him. The ship landed 50 yards from the cabin. A ramp extended. 6 armed guards exited first, forming a perimeter. They were big, professional, and carrying weapons that could reduce the cabin to splinters in seconds. Then a 7th figure appeared at the top of the ramp. Vincent was tall, maybe 6.5 feet, with features that were almost human but not quite. His eyes were the same violet as his children's, but ancient and cold in a way that made Jake's instincts scream. He wore simple dark clothes, no armor, no visible weapons. He did not need them. Power radiated from him like heat from a fire. Jake opened the cabin door and stepped outside, hands visible and away from his weapon. Mr. His eyes locked onto him. Jake had faced down enemy soldiers, terrorists, and predators in these mountains. None of them had ever made him feel the way Gaze did, like being evaluated by something ancient and deadly that could kill him with a thought. "Where are my children?" His voice was quiet, controlled, dangerous. "Inside, safe, waiting to talk to you." Started walking toward the cabin. His guards moved to follow. Jake stepped into his path. "Just you, they don't need an audience of armed soldiers." The guards tensed, weapons coming up slightly. Raised one hand and they stopped. He studied Jake with those violet eyes, and Jake saw something flicker in them. Surprise, maybe, or respect. "You have courage, human, or stupidity. I have not decided which." "Probably both. But your children asked me to protect them. That includes from being overwhelmed and scared." "I would never hurt them." "I know, but they're still afraid. Let me help with that." Considered this for a long moment. Then he nodded once. "Very well, just me." Jake led him into the cabin. Maya and Leo stood by the fireplace, holding hands, their faces a mix of hope and fear. When they saw their father, they did not run to him. They stayed where they were, uncertain. Stopped just inside the door. For the first time since landing, his mask slipped. Jake saw raw emotion cross his face. Pain, love, fear, all there for just a second before control reasserted itself. "My children," his voice was soft, "I thought I had lost you." "We're here," Maya said carefully. "But we can't go back to how things were, father. We meant what we said." "You ran from me, from my protection. You could have died." "We almost did die living your way," Leo said. "Locked up, always watched, never allowed to just be ourselves. We would rather risk death than live like that forever." Flinched like he had been struck, he looked at Jake. "You put this in their heads." "No, they already believed it. I just listened." Jake moved to stand between and the twins, not threatening but protective. "Your children are brave, smart, and capable. They saved themselves as much as I saved them. They kept calm during the rescue, followed instructions, and adapted to a crisis. You raised strong kids. Now you need to trust that strength. You know nothing of what I have sacrificed to keep them safe." "You're right, but I know what they've sacrificed. Their childhood, their freedom, their chance to grow up as anything other than targets and prisoners." Jake met's eyes without backing down. "They love you. They told me that, but love isn't enough when it comes wrapped in chains." Was silent for a long time. His hands clenched and unclenched at his sides. Jake could see the war happening inside him. The crime lord who ruled through fear and power versus the father who just wanted his children safe. Maya took a small step forward. "Father, Aunt has agreed to take us in. We could live with her on Station Meridian, neutral territory. We could have tutors, friends, a normal life. You could visit whenever you wanted. We wouldn't be running from you. We would just be living our own lives. And if your enemies find you, if they attack the station, then we deal with it, together. But living in fear of what might happen isn't living at all." Looked at his daughter, then his son, then back at Jake. "The council is coming. They will demand my cooperation. They will want information, access to my network. In exchange for what? A promise to protect my children. Their promises mean nothing." "But mine does," Jake said. "I'll make sure Maya and Leo get to their aunt safely. I'll personally escort them to Station Meridian. And if anyone tries to hurt them, they'll have to go through me." One of his guards actually laughed at that, a low, mocking sound, but did not laugh. He studied Jake with an intensity that felt like it was peeling back layers of skin. "You would stand against my enemies. You, one human with a military record and a cabin in the mountains. I pulled them out of a frozen hell when the easy choice was to stay safe in my cabin. I kept them alive for 4 days with nothing but basic supplies and willpower. I'm standing up to you right now when you could kill me without breaking a sweat. Yeah, I'll stand against your enemies, Because these kids deserve better than the world you've built for them." Something changed in his expression. The coldness faded slightly, replaced by something Jake could not quite identify. "What is your interest in this? Why do you care?" "Because nobody else did. Because when I found them in that shuttle, they were terrified and alone and dying. Because in 4 days they became real to me, people, not problems or leverage or pawns, people." Jake stepped aside, letting see his children clearly. "Look at them, really look. They're not little kids anymore. They need room to grow." Did look. For a long moment, father and children just stared at each other across the cabin. Jake could see the twins trying to be strong, trying not to cry, trying to show they were serious. And he could see struggling with something fundamental and painful. Outside, the sound of more ships landing. The Council forces had arrived. Jake's scanners showed 3 vessels setting down in a loose perimeter around the cabin. They were running out of time. "Father," Leo said quietly, "Guardian died because he believed we deserved a choice. Are you going to make his death meaningless?" That was the blow that landed. His face crumpled for just a second, grief and guilt flashing across his features before he controlled it again. "Was my oldest friend. He should have told me." "He couldn't. You would have stopped him, locked us down." Maya's voice broke. "Please, Father, please let us try this. If it doesn't work, if we can't make it, we'll come back. But give us this chance." A knock on the cabin door interrupted the moment. Jake opened it to find a Galactic Council officer in formal uniform, flanked by 2 armed guards. The officer was her 4 eyes taking in the scene with quick precision. "I am Commander Vale of the Galactic Council Security Division. We have reports of endangered miners at this location. I need to speak with all parties involved." Turned slowly, and Jake saw the crime lord mask snap back into place. "Commander, how convenient that you arrived just now." "Mister, I have orders to ensure the safety and welfare of Maya and Leo. I also have an outstanding warrant for information regarding the attack on their transport vessel." "No warrant applies in this cabin," Jake said firmly. "This is private property on a human colony world. You need permission to enter, and I'm not giving it." Vale's eyes focused on Jake. "And you are?" "Jake, owner of this cabin, the one who saved these children while everyone else was still mobilizing search teams, the one they trust to keep them safe. So if you want to talk, we talk out here. My terms." Vale studied him for a moment, then nodded slightly. "Very well. Mister, the Galactic Council is prepared to offer full protective custody for Maya and Leo. We can ensure their safety, provide education, and remove them from the influence of criminal organizations." "In other words, you want to use them as leverage against their father," Jake said. "Make them hostages you can trade for cooperation later." "We want to protect them from a dangerous environment." "They don't need your protection. They need their family. Their real family, not the armed soldiers and locked rooms version." Moved to stand beside Jake, which surprised everyone including Jake himself. "The human is correct. My children will not become pawns in your political games, Commander. With respect, mister, your lifestyle makes them targets. They were nearly killed by your rivals. Their guardian died protecting them. How many more deaths will it take before you acknowledge the danger you pose to them?" The question hung in the air. Jake saw his jaw tighten, saw the pain flash across Maya and Leo's faces. Vale was good at finding pressure points, but she had miscalculated one thing. "How many council operations have resulted in civilian casualties this year, Commander?" Jake asked quietly. "How many times has your protective custody ended with dead witnesses? Your organization isn't perfect either." Vale's expression hardened. "Mister, you are interfering in a council security matter." "No, I'm protecting 2 children who asked for my help. There's a difference." Maya stepped forward, moving past her father and Jake to face the commander directly. "Nobody asked what we want. Everyone is deciding for us. Father wants us locked away safe. The council wants us in custody. Your rivals want us as hostages, but we are people. We get a choice too. Leo joined his sister. We want to live with our aunt on Station Meridian, neutral territory. We want to have a normal life with school and friends and room to grow up. That's what we want. Vale looked at the twins, then at Jake. Station Meridian is acceptable as a compromise, but I will need assurances, regular check-ins, verification of their welfare, and Mr. must provide information about the syndicate that attacked them. No, said flatly. Father, please, Maya said. They killed Guardian, they tried to kill us. Don't protect them. I am not protecting them. I will destroy them myself. And how many people will die in that war? Jake asked. How much collateral damage? How many innocents caught in the crossfire? Turned to glare at him. You presume too much, human. Maybe. Or maybe I'm the only one here who isn't thinking like a soldier or a politician. I'm thinking like someone who cares about these kids and wants them to have a future that isn't soaked in blood. You know nothing of my world. I know your world took Guardian from them. I know it nearly killed them in a frozen shuttle. I know they're so scared of it they would rather risk running than stay safe in it. Jake stepped closer to, not aggressive but intense. You have a chance here, a real chance to give them something better, but you have to be willing to compromise, to work with people you don't like, to choose your children's future over your pride. It is not about pride. Then what is it about? Was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. I have lost so much. My people, my world, my mate. These children are all I have left, if I lose them too. You won't lose them, Maya said, taking her father's hand. We love you. We will always love you. But we need space to become our own people. And you need to trust us enough to let us try. Leo took's other hand. Guardian believed in us, can you? Jake watched's face, saw the ancient being behind the crime lord mask, saw a father struggling with letting go, saw someone who had ruled through power and fear trying to learn a different way. Finally spoke, if I agree to this, if I allow you to live with, what assurances do I have that you will be safe? I'll make sure of it, Jake said. I'll escort them personally to Station Meridian. I'll stay for the first month to help them settle in. I'll teach them everything I know about staying safe without living in a cage, and I'll be available if they need me, whenever they need me. You would do this, give up your quiet life in the mountains for children you barely know. Yeah, I would. Studied him for another long moment. Then, surprisingly, he extended his hand. Then we have an agreement, Jake. You keep my children safe, and you have my word that no harm will come to you or anyone under your protection. Jake shook his hand. His grip was strong but controlled, and the information the council wants. Turn to Commander Vale. I will provide you with complete intelligence on the syndicate, locations, operations, key personnel, everything you need to dismantle them completely. In exchange, you leave my legitimate operations alone and stay away from my children unless they request council assistance. Vale considered this. That is acceptable. I will draw up the formal agreement. One more condition, said. The human, Jake, is under my protection from this moment forward. Any action taken against him by any party will be considered an act of war against me personally. Jake blinked. That's not necessary. Yes, it is. You have earned this. Few beings ever do. Looked at his children one more time and his mask slipped again. Be safe, be happy, make Guardian proud. Maya and Leo ran to their father and hugged him, wrapped his arms around them, and for a moment he was just a father holding his children. Jake looked away, giving them privacy. When they finally separated, straightened, back to business. Commander Vale, I will transmit the information within the hour. I will have a secure transport ready to take you and my children to Station Meridian tomorrow. It will be escorted by my personal guard. Is this acceptable? Yes, thank you. Nodded once, then turned and walked out of the cabin. His guards fell into formation around him. A moment later, his ship lifted off, powerful engines shaking the ground. Commander Vale looked at Jake. "You have done a remarkable thing here, mister. Not many people can negotiate with Vincent and walk away with what they wanted." "I didn't want anything. I just wanted those kids to have a choice." "Nevertheless, you have the Council's gratitude. If you ever need assistance, contact me." Vale handed him a data chip. "My personal codes." After Vale and her people left, Jake closed the door and turned to find Maya and Leo staring at him. The cabin suddenly felt very quiet. "We're really going to ants?" Leo asked. "Yeah, tomorrow. You ready for that?" Both twins nodded. Then Maya crossed the room and hugged Jake tightly. "Thank you for everything." Leo joined in. "You saved our lives twice, once from the storm, once from everyone else." Jake hugged them back, feeling that tightness in his chest again. "You're going to do great, both of you. You're smart, brave, and stronger than you know." "Will you visit us?" Maya asked. "After the first month, will you come back sometimes?" "Yeah, I will, I promise." That night Jake cooked a real meal. Nothing fancy, just pasta and vegetables, but they ate together and talked about normal things. Maya told stories about places she wanted to visit. Leah talked about wanting to learn music. They were just kids, planning futures they had never been allowed to imagine before. The next morning's transport arrived. It was sleek, fast, and heavily armed. The crew treated Jake with surprising respect. He loaded his gear and helped the twins aboard. As they lifted off, Jake looked back at his cabin one last time. It had been his refuge, his escape from the world, but maybe he had been hiding long enough. The journey to Station Meridian took 3 days. Jake spent the time teaching the twins practical skills: how to read people, how to spot danger, how to trust their instincts without being paranoid. They soaked it all up like sponges. Aunt met them at the docking port. She was shorter than her brother but had the same violet eyes. She hugged Maya and Leo like they were her own children, then shook Jake's hand firmly. "My brother told me what you did. You have my gratitude and friendship, mister." "Just Jake, and you don't owe me anything. I did what anyone should have done." "But most would not have. That makes you special." Jake stayed for a month as promised. He helped the twins settle into their new school. He taught them self-defense and emergency protocols. He met their new friends and approved of security measures, which were thorough but not oppressive. Slowly, he watched Maya and Leo relax and start acting like normal kids. When it was time to leave, saying goodbye was harder than Jake expected. The twins made him promise to call every week, gave him an open invitation to return anytime. As Jake's shuttle lifted off from Station Meridian, he looked down at the station and smiled. 2 children who had been running scared in a blizzard were now safe, happy, and free. One crime lord had chosen love over power. One soldier had remembered why he became a medic in the first place. Not a bad outcome for someone who just wanted to live quietly in the mountains. 3 months later, Jake was back at his cabin when a package arrived. Inside was a data pad with a message from Maya and Leo. They had made honors in school. Leo had joined a music group. Maya was learning martial arts. They were thriving. Also in the package was a small dragon figurine, intricately carved from black stone. A note from Red simply, "The favor stands, always." Jake put the figurine on his shelf, next to the photos and mementos from his military days. A reminder that sometimes the hardest battles were not fought with weapons. Sometimes they were fought with compassion, courage, and the willingness to stand up for what was right, even when it was dangerous. He walked to his window and looked out at the mountains. The storms would come again. They always did. But Jake had learned something important. When the call for help came, when someone needed saving, he would answer. Because that was who he was. A human who believed that every life mattered. Even in a galaxy full of power and politics and ancient beings, one person making the right choice could change everything. And sometimes that was enough.